Good morning and welcome to the Year 1 Writing Workshop. The aim of this virtual session is to explain to you the expectations that we have in Year 1 for writing, to introduce you to the Talk for Writing scheme that we use to teach writing in class, to share with you the grammar and punctuation your children will be learning this year, look at spelling and also handwriting. This slide shows you our end of year expectations. You can see they're divided up into grammar and punctuation, which goes from using full stops and capital letters to question marks and exclamation marks in the summer. Composition, about how the children complete their writing. So starting with just writing simple letters and words, up to in the summer being able to use story language like Once Upon a Time and be able to put things in chronological order, for example, when they're doing a recount. And then the transcription, which is to do with the spelling and also the handwriting. At Dilks Academy and across the schools, we use Talk for Writing in our English lessons, which was a scheme developed by Corbett. It has 3 stages to this scheme. The first is an immersion, which is usually a week, and the second is an innovation, and then finally invent at the end of the second week. So during the immersion stage of the process, children learn a text or a type of text in detail so that they can then use that as a plan or a scaffold for when they complete their own writing in the second week. Examples of these could be an oral story. For example, we do a story in the summer called Monkey See, Monkey Do. A media unit based on a video story. We use one called A Slippery Towel, or a non-fiction text, for example, a non-chronological report. During the immersion stage, we use a range of activities to help the children to learn the structure of the story. This can be learning the story by heart, using actions for support, getting them to draw a story map. You can see an example there of a recent story, which was Our Spider. Some drama activities and getting them to write in role. For example, they might have pretended to have been the spider writing a diary entry about meeting the family, or the family writing a letter introducing their new pet spider. Once the children have embedded the story towards the end of the first week, we would then start to innovate the story. So using the structure, they adapt it and write their own version. To support this stage, we use storyboards, as the example below shows one for, again, based on the Our Spider story, where we've changed it to Our Bumblebee. They can use story maps or a box it up process, whereby we take the original story and break it down into small steps, and then the children adapt each of the small steps. So in the second week of our writing units, children then use their plan or plans to write an extended text over a number of days. This is usually 4 or 5 days. Every day, the teacher models writing a section of the text, so they can show the key features that they want to include in the text, such as the vocabulary, types of sentence they want to use, and also punctuation. It's also an opportunity for the teachers to look at any misconceptions they've noticed from their previous day's marking, and also to model the correct handwriting style. So, for example, if teachers notice that the children are getting a bit confused with the tense of the story, they might use some spoof in their model to see if the children can pick up where they've made the mistake. Could be a common spelling error. For example, we spell very phonetically in Year 1, and there are a lot of words that you can't spell phonetically. So it might be picking up, for example, like they with an A instead of an E. Towards the very end of a unit, children then have an opportunity to extend their understanding of the text for invention. So this might be writing in an alternative end for a story. For example, at the end of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, instead of Goldilocks running away, they might write about the bears and Goldilocks becoming friends, or changing the situation the character finds themselves in. So again, giving the example of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, instead of turning up at their house and nobody's in, maybe she turns up feeling really hungry and they're in, and it's a completely different story. When we're doing non-fiction genres, they can be invented by using them in other areas of the curriculum. For example, later in the year, we will write a non-chronological report about types of animals in the science lesson, and also we will write one about Paris and France, linked to our geography topic. So at Dilks, we teach grammar and punctuation in our starters, early morning work, and for our modelled writing. We assess the children's knowledge of grammar and punctuation half-termly, and then when we look at the assessments that have been completed and identify areas of misconception, we then focus on those in the following half-term. Spelling is part of our daily phonics sessions, which also links to the phonics knowledge they developed in reception. We have the weekly assessment of 8 spellings based on a phonics sound or a spelling rule, and also 2 of the high frequency words. Activities that we do in class include looking for simple spelling errors in a sentence, and then using phonics to spell words during writing tasks. Some of the other spelling activities that we use in school that you could also use at home, for example, EdShed, where we do the weekly spellings. We have the look cover check sheets or on Purple Mash. You can make little word searches up, or there are lots of ready-made ones online, and just making up either magnetic letters or just cutting up the letters of the alphabet and moving them around and playing some games with those letters all help the children to develop their spelling knowledge throughout Year 1. Across the school, we used a joined handwriting scheme, which has a leading stroke on all the letters. They practice joining their writing in handwriting sessions every day, as well as seeing us modelling it, and if we are marking work and we see letters that are formed incorrectly, we would correct those and sometimes do a little bit of extra teaching on that with individual pupils. This slide shows you what the letters look like using the handwriting scheme. The lead in flick and the flick coming out makes it much easier once the children start to join, and the aim is that by the end of Year 1, most of the children in the year group will be trying to join their letters. Some of the things that you can help your child with at home linked to writing. So we have the weekly homework tasks on Purple Mash. So you could then extend those by asking them to maybe write a piece of text using the rule we have been learning together. So for example, the other week we had words that are commonly misspelt. So the children could then maybe have written sentences using those words. We also have the weekly spelling practice as well, linked to that. The punctuation and grammar activities online. There's lots of websites that have free games you can play to teach things like using full stops and capital letters or choosing the right tense. And the next slide has some websites that will close. And just really regular writing practice. For example, keeping a diary. If they play a sport or follow a sport, it could be writing a report about something they've seen. It could be writing about their favourite TV programme. And also sometimes writing for a purpose, for example, a thank you letter, making a list, helping you make a shopping list you needed, all those little things that just that regular practice will help them to improve their writing skills. And this final slide just shows some websites that we've found to be useful. Certainly the Top Marks website has lots of games, not just for English, but also some maths games quite useful on there. And BBC Bite Size, they've added a lot of content due to the home learning that we did last year. So there's a lot of resources out there if you want to do a bit of extra work with your children at home on some of these things. I hope this has been useful. Obviously, as always, the teachers are available at the start and the end of the day. If there's anything you'd like to discuss a bit further, you want some help, or put a note in the children's diary, and we're always happy to come along and give a bit of guidance and try and help where we can. Thanks for listening. Bye.